to achieve groundbreaking results in areas that are very important for the nation. So this particular funding scheme is called the Sree Ramakrishna Paramahamsa Research Grant. There are two streams, the biomedical sciences stream and the agricultural sciences stream. Biomedical sciences offers a 3-year grant of up to 3 crores, and these are for bench to bedside solutions that benefit human health. Whereas agricultural sciences is a smaller program where they offer 50 lakhs over 2 years for translational projects that benefit small and marginal farmers. So there are some commonalities between both of these schemes. It is both look to generate knowledge and develop solutions of highest quality. And in both of the schemes, we are looking for low cost, sustainable solutions that address contemporary problems that the nation is facing. And there is a large, very, very high emphasis on accessible and affordable solutions. And both of them are also kind of last mile in the sense that agricultural sciences is very, very last mile, whereas biomedical sciences, because of the nature of research that is required, they are looking for solutions that have immediate translational potential. And what these grants offer is not just generous funding, but there is also a lot of mentorship that happens through the committee and a lot of sort of hand-holding, a lot of advice that you get from the committee throughout the grant period. So for I'm going to concentrate this talk only on the biomedical sciences stream because that is what the current call is all about. So this started in 2019 to fund translational solutions for clinical problems and for human health. And these projects can be from any branch of science and technology with the focus that they need to be bench to bedside, that they need to lead to interventions that can improve human health. And so the grant is basically envisaged as an enabler to deliver ready to deploy solutions that can lead to successful bedside applications. And we are looking for ambitious projects, but at the same time, they need to have a substantial impact on human health, which is measurable. So the key requirement for this grant, again, all of this information is already in our grant call. It is already on the website, but I'm going to stress on this because this is what the key selection criteria is, that the proposed solution by the end of the 3-year grant period should lead to some tangible outcome that can immediately be translated. And these need to be easily accessible. These need to be cost-effective solutions. And the key is that they also need to benefit large sections of the population. While all of the biomedical science streams do fall into the ambit of this grant, climate change, agricultural sciences, and ecological sciences are not supported by this call. So the eligibility for this grant, institutions, any not-for-profit research organizations are eligible to apply. There could be universities, there could be research and development institutions, there could be medical centers, private, government, as long as they're not-for-profit. This year onwards, we are also opening up the call for for-profit entities, but only as co-PIs and collaborators. So the lead institution and the lead PI still needs to be from a not-for-profit organization. And for the PIs, the eligibility is that they need to have a minimum qualification of PhD, MD, MS or equivalent. But there is no salary component included in this. So we expect that the PI and co-PIs applying for this grant have secured positions at their respective institutions, which supports their salary and which also provides the infrastructure for the conduct of the research. There, however, is an age limit for the lead PI. There needs to be 50 years by the application deadline. I mean, they cannot be more than 50 years by the application deadline. Sorry that I said it wrong. So they cannot exceed 50 years by the application deadline, but there is a 5-year exception for women candidates. And the grant is open for single institutional projects, multi-institutional projects, It is also open for foreign collaborations. And like I said, from this year onward, you can also collaborate with for-profit entities, startups, industry, etc. However, the lead institution needs to be based in India and the lead institution needs to be not-for-profit. And also the money will not be dispersed to all of the collaborators. The money will only go to the primary institution, and it is the responsibility of the lead institution to put mechanisms in place for disbursement of funds to their collaborators as subgrants. And from this year onwards, there is another additional requirement that because we are expecting these to have immediate translational potential, it is important that you have a clinical collaborator already tied into the grant right from the very beginning. So it is mandatory to have a clinical collaborator for the application purpose. So the provisions of the grant, there is a maximum budget of 3 crores, but we do welcome projects that fall, anywhere from, 75 lakhs to 3 crores. Because we're looking for ambitious projects, we do tend to, look for projects that do have large grant requirement, but at the same time, anything from 75 lakhs to 3 crores is welcome. Anything below that, we do feel that probably there are a lot of government funding that is available for grants of that proportion, and therefore we do want projects that come to us to have a larger grant share. And the grant will, because this is a 3-year, it is mandatory that your projects are for 3 years, and the grant will be disbursed in 3 installments, and but each installment can be no more than 1 crore. So when you're planning your budget, it will be nice if you can plan it in such a way that your budget does not exceed more than 1 crore per year. We fund a range of expenses, everything that a research project will require, starting from equipment to research personnel costs, to consumables, to travel. We also allow international travel, contingency, overheads, outsourcing. If your project requires large amounts of field studies, or if your project has training modules embedded in them, then we are happy to support those kind of expenses also. So they need to be commensurate with the project, and we're very open for, whatever you think is required for your project, you can put forward. Other than the salary and funding for international collaborators, basically we are more or less open to consider any kind of expense that you think you will need for successful execution of your project. And we are also very flexible. We give you the freedom to allocate the budget as you see fit, but at the same time, the requested costs need to be very strongly justified, and they need to be commensurate with the proposed research. And we also give you the flexibility to interchange between different budget heads even after the grant is approved. Like I already mentioned, the grant will only be given to the primary host institution in India, and the money disbursement in case of multi-institutional grants is a responsibility of the primary lead institution. So now coming to the most important part, the selection criteria. So because these are translational research grants, one of the primary criteria is that how soon can the proposed research benefit humans? This is an important criteria that the committee takes into consideration. Of course, we are looking for novel solutions. So we're also looking for novelty. We're also looking for feasibility. How feasible is the project considering the collaborators you've put together, considering the expertise of the PI and the collaborators, and the infrastructure that exists in these institutions that you have that have come together to put the proposal together. We are also, of course, looking at the scientific rigor and the vigor of the proposed experiments. They will also be taken into consideration. But of course, it is a competition. So we are also going to look at how your proposal is comparing to others in the cohort and the kind of solutions that they are proposing. And also the value of the outcomes. What impact will the proposed research have on the human health? So again, I cannot stress enough on this. We are looking for tangible and innovative outcomes that can immediately be translated. They need to be cost effective. They need to be accessible, and most importantly, they need to impact large sections of the population. So there is again a slight change in the way the competition will be run this year. From this year onwards, we are introducing a preliminary application submission. So there will be prelim applications which will be screened for eligibility and remit. And once we make sure that all of the applications are eligible and they fall within the remit of the competition, then they will be screened by the selection committee for competitiveness and impact. And selected applications will then be invited to submit a full application. And these will then go for international peer review by experts in the field. And we ideally try to get anywhere between 3 to 5 opinions from experts in the field on what you have proposed. And then again, there will be a shortlisting, and shortlisted candidates will be invited for in-person interviews, and then the committee will decide on the final award. So it is a very stringent selection process. And we have put together an eminent committee to help us in this process. The Committee for Biomedical Sciences is chaired by Professor L.S. Shashidhara, who is a director of NCBS. And we also have other prominent, eminent researchers from different fields and clinicians, biomedical scientists, people who have immense experience working with industry, working with translational clinical problems, so on and so forth. And for this year, this is the timeline. Again, it is very widely, it is available on the website. It is also mentioned in the grant call. It is launched on 9th July and 21st August is the deadline for the preliminary application. You will probably hear from, depending on how many applications we get and how long it takes for the process, you will hear from the foundation towards the end of October if you are invited for full application or not. And those that are selected will have about 1 month to put in their full applications. And then there is, of course, you saw there's a stringent peer review process that will happen. And there will the second shortlisting for interviews will probably happen by the end of January, early February. So mid-February is when we are hoping that we will be able to announce the results for the interviews, and the interviews will happen towards the end of February, and the final award will be announced in March. We do understand that this is a long timeline, but at the same time, I mean, these are substantial grants, 3 crores, and also there's a very stringent selection process which requires this amount of time for us to take from the initial submission to the final award process. Next few minutes, I'm just going to give you a brief understanding of the kind of applications we receive and also the kind of projects that the committee has so far funded. In the 6 years that we've been running this competition, we've received more than 750 applications from wide-ranging institutions. Initially, most of our applications used to come from R&D institutions, but over time, with more and more emphasis on translation, the word has gotten out there. So now we get a lot of applications from medical institutions. We get a lot of applications from science and technology and engineering colleges like IITs and other private engineering colleges as well, which is very, very heartening for the foundation. And because there is an age limit of 50 years for the lead PI, we get applications primarily from early career researchers, mid-career researchers, but also a big chunk of applications from senior researchers, even heads of departments, and so on and so forth. And we're very happy that about 35% of our applicants are female. Actually, in some years, we've even had 50% of applicants to be women applicants, and we're very, very happy to see this development. And this is a very, very rough analysis that I've done just before putting this presentation. So it's a very sort of very crude graphs that you will see here of the kind of applications that we've been receiving over the years. As you can see, there is a very good distribution of, diagnostic solutions, biomedical devices. There's a big chunk of applications proposing different treatments and interventions. And they again come from varied kind of research fields. Biomaterials and bioengineering forms a big chunk. Nowadays, we get a lot of AI/ML kind of applications. There are drug discovery applications, diagnostic medical devices, We do get a large chunk of applications for cancer and neurosciences, but there are also molecular biology, cell biology kind of applications. We also get infectious diseases and immunology kind of, I mean, anything and everything that you can think of. These are only the major maximum kind applications that we've been receiving. But as you will see in the next section, when I start talking about awards, that 3PVF is not really looking at any particular area or any particular, they do not have any sort of bias towards one field or the other, or one area or the other. As long as a solution falls within the remit and ambit of the foundation, we are happy to support these solutions. So about the previous awardees now. So initially the foundation was only giving one award per year, but over the years, that is now in the past few years, we've been giving 2 and 3 awards per year. This is a small foundation, and the money is being put in by private individuals. So there is a limited amount of money that is available for the foundation every year. But at the same time, if the committee likes the solutions, then we do try to award more and more grants in each year. So this will also tell you that the competition is extremely fierce because of the limited awards that are given out each year. So in the very first year, the award went to Professor Vidita Vaidya and Professor Ullas Koltor from Tata Institute. And in the first year, there was no focus on translation. So actually, Vidita proposed a regular biomedical project where she was looking at mitochondrial metabolic modulations due to early life stress for mental health issues later on in life. So it's a neuroscience project. But when the focus of the foundation shifted to translational research during the course of the grant, with the help of the committee members and the very useful advice and suggestions that she's got from the committee, by the time she finished her grant, she actually has non-invasive nutritional interventions that can actually revert, the early life stress metabolic modulations that she's discovered during the course of this grant. She's actually found a translational solution to revert this also. So that is a kind of mentorship that you will receive from the committee. But from second year onwards, the focus has been on translation, and you will see different kinds of projects that are supported by the foundation. In 2020, Vandana Sharma from IIT Hyderabad, she's received support to build a 3D imaging based infrared based vein intrusion guide system for intravenous injections, and also to draw blood. In 2021, Dr. Falguni Pati, again from IIT Hyderabad, it's a multidisciplinary team from LV Prasad Eye Institute and CCMB in Hyderabad. They have developed a biomimetic hydrogel for the treatment of blinding corneal diseases. This 3PVF funding is actually helping them to do clinical grade manufacturing and clinical validation for the intervention that they have already come up with. 2022, there were 2 awards. Dr. Akanksha Chaturvedi from NCCS for developing a novel high affinity human monoclonal antibody cocktail for rabies virus. And Radhakant Padi from IISc for working to create a customizable and intelligent artificial pancreas for type 1 diabetic patients in India, and along with that, a cost-effective insulin pump. This is a large project with multi-institutional collaborations across the country. And in 2023, we have Dr. Ambarish Ghosh from IISc again. He's going to join us now, and he will take you through his project perhaps. But his project is in oral health and dentistry. So the thing in 2023, both the projects that were supported by the foundation are kind of in areas that are normally don't receive a lot of funding support in India, like, dentistry and oral health in case of Ambarish, and hearing impairment in case of Dr. Vidya Ramkumar. She's from Sree Ramakrishna Institute of Higher Education and Research. She's a public health researcher. She's come up with this smartphone-based speech spectrum in noise hearing screening for early identification of hearing loss in children. And she's using 3PVF funding to scale up her screening intervention using different languages and in different parts of the country. In 2024, for the first time, we had 3 awards. Dr. Josnendu Giri from IIT Hyderabad again for developing autologous platelet-rich plasma-loaded personalized wound care patch for effective and affordable burn wound care. Now, this is like a patient and bedside solution that has very, very huge implications. You can read more about all of these projects on our website. Dr. Arun Anirudhan from Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute, they have received funding for design and development of comprehensive low-cost simulation lab for advanced cardiopulmonary, respiratory, vascular, critical care, interventional catheterization, and ultrasound training in medical colleges. So this is actually for training clinicians and medical students on these important interventions. And his solution is a made in India cost-effective solution. And Dr. Gopinath Pakirsamy from IIT Roorkee for the development of biosensors for non-invasive and early stage detection of bladder cancer using urine samples. And the thing with Gopinath's solution is that this is like a platform technology, though it is focused on bladder cancer, but the technology can actually be used for anything and everything that can be detected in urine samples. So that is what really, caught the attention of the committee. So I think I'm going to stop here, and you can write to us at sreepvfgrants@gmail.com. All of what I have taken you through now is also available on the website. You can read in much more detail about each of the projects and their what they have proposed and what Sree PVF funding is helped them do. This will give you an idea as to what the committee likes, what the foundation likes before you put your proposals together. So now I'm going to stop sharing, and now I will invite Ambarish to, talk about his proposal a little bit, and also, how it has been applying for Sree PVF funding, the entire selection process, and also how the funding is helping him with his project. The floor is all yours, Ambarish.
Yeah. Thank you, Ponari. Actually, you have pretty much covered everything so well. Perhaps what I can do is to sort of cover my experience on the other side, from the grantee side. That's what I can do. Just before I proceed, I want to tell a little bit about the scientific aspect of my project, so that everybody who is present here gets an idea where I'm coming from. So it is indeed in oral health related to dentistry. And this is something that we have been working on, this particular problem, back from 2021, 2022, when we started and got some very nice proof of concepts. So I got it in 23, I believe, but then the year before also, I had applied with more or less the same team. And that time there was only one application, and then we heard back that this was not to be taken up. And indeed, at that time, we didn't have the sort of translation level data on this oral health problem that the committee was looking for. So to go in a little bit more detail, the specific dental hypersensitivity, oral health, and it's a very multidisciplinary problem where nanoscience, medicine, actually system building, a little bit of electronics all comes in. So there are nanoparticles, there is a little bit of electronics and magnetic field manipulation, and of course, biology is intricately involved. So we have been working for it quite some time, and we got some initial nice proof of concept, and we even had a startup founded with this initial results. And then with that, we went to Sree PVF the first time, but then the comments came back. I don't remember the comments very well, but what I broadly remember is the comment was things are still in a little bit preliminary stage, and that's why it's not taken forward. So it was very fair, and in fact, we continued working on this. And over the next 1 year, we not only completed all the cell culture the cell level experiments, but also got some animal experiments done and even showed through animal behavior that what we are proposing is indeed working, at least in animals. So the next time when we went forward, we were far more confident and we had presented lots of new data and we had submitted the proposal. Again, the startup was there and we even had some clinical sort of clinical trial organizations showed interest that they are going to collaborate with us on this particular problem. So this time it did go through and we got the review comments. And this is always something that most PIs are very worried about. And that is whether the reviews are really going to do justice to their work. And at least in my case, I must tell you, the reviewers were quite knowledgeable. Out of the two reviews, one I would say was an absolute expert in the field, really went into the details, and they would not mince words. They were very brutal about it, really saying that this particular thing that you are claiming will have this problems. The second review that we got was a little bit more broader, but again, I think that particular reviewer were looking more as a general approach, whether this can be commercialized, whether this can actually reach to the bedside, as they say, right from lab to the bedside. That's the basic premise of this particular funding scheme, this particular foundation funding scheme. So we could answer most of these questions. So these questions were not unanswerable. They were done with proper scientific. There were scientific merits to the questions, but we also had experiments planned, and we sort of knew that this could be the possible criticisms. So, but then we were told that with this particular set of questions, you are supposed to come to the interview, and you'll have to answer these questions. And also, what I remember Punari's email, it was mentioned very clearly that, if possible, come with your partners, the ones who are finally taking it from the lab to the market. So we went there, and again, it was a very pleasant experience. The committee is, again, extremely knowledgeable and supportive. That's what we thought out. The overall experience was very nice. The discussion was mostly about science, and I must tell you, in the presentation, I believe it was about 10 to 15 minutes. We had first given a short overview of what we wanted to do, but then we added some slides on, these were the questions that the reviewers raised, and this is our answer. And we had some, even in the meantime, in these 2-3 months, we could manage to add some experimental data that would really satisfy, and even some data from literature, which sort of said that, okay, whatever the reviewers' suggestions or criticisms are, we have thought about it, and we know this is the way to handle. In our case, the startup was also there with some form of commercialization plan in place, and there were a few minutes spent also on that. Again, the committee on the whole was quite broad. They looked at several aspects, both the science as well as the lab to the bedside plan that we had in place. So on the whole, at least in my experience, it was a fair evaluation. People did talk about science and the details of the experiments. We even had questions which related to why this particular cell line, while for this particular disease this is a preferred cell line. So we had to argue depending on the various parameters at hand. So that level of detail you got to be ready with both the review comments as well as the interview, the final stage of the project. Subsequently, and I would say the main difference, the difficulty that we had was after the project got sanctioned, the foundation agreed to support this, was actually the agreement between CVPF and IASC, because in my particular case, most of the R&D was happening at Indian Institute of Science. There was also a startup that was involved. And then there was, of course, CVPF is providing the funding. So exactly which way there was no funding that was planned to be sent from IISc to the startup. So that was sorted out. But still there were questions with respect to when it is commercialized, some of the IP, that royalty funding money that comes to IP, to IISc, some part of that would go to CVPF, and this is the way the foundation plans to keep the overall scheme running over a long period of time. And this is very, very usual and this is very standard. But as you would imagine, there are, ISC is, of course, also a big institute and there are a lot of constraints at our end. So that discussion went on for some time. And I remember finally, there were Dr. Ponari was there, a very senior professor who was part of the foundation also joined in with our legal team. And then with time, finally, things got sorted. But what I understand from Dr. Ponari is now many of these things have been streamlined. So in a way, with all likelihood, some of the ones who would get this project in coming times will not have any difficulty in this particular aspect. So that's the main difficulty level. Once the funding comes, I must tell you, in order to do any science, flexibility is important. But if you want to do not just science, but also do technology development, technology deployment, having flexibility in operations can make all the difference between success and failure. Considering the present government of India rules, I mean, in very often the funding can be generous, at least in paper, but the rules and regulations that comes with it, for example, with respect to hiring, with respect to the types of assets, like for example, you have to spell out everything that this goes under this head, this goes under this head. It's actually extremely difficult if you want to operate at a speed that is, that is commensurate with the way an industry works if you want to be competitive. You have to have human resource and you will not get enough human resource with the type of government of India mandated salaries and stuff like that. So there are many, many places where flexibility makes all the difference. For some of you who are aware of the Wellcome Trust, according to me, and this is the way Dr. Ponari, I actually advertise CVPF to many of my other colleagues, is that imagine Wellcome Trust, but catered towards commercialization and technology development. And I think that's because I was a senior fellow in Wellcome Trust till about a year ago. That also provided a lot of operational flexibility, which makes all the difference in getting things done in India in the context. In the Western world, this is given, but it's not there, and that makes such a big difference you can't imagine. Indeed, you have to write in your proposal some approximate plan. So, for example, in my thing, there were a plan for a certain RA1, RA2, this sort of things were there. But then I could find, and we had the right person hired and all that. But then for a certain application, it was impossible for me to find somebody of that background from academia, somebody like an RA2 or RA3, even if there were funding. I was just getting anybody. Then the only person I could find was somebody from industry who had the right experience and wanted to venture into this type of academia industry collaborative project. And there was absolutely no way I could hire or even match anywhere close to the person's expectation. But thankfully, again, IISc has provision in which, if the funding agency allows, there are certain positions like technology managers and all of that one can offer to this person. So that's something. So and if IISc allows, Sree VPF is okay with it, and that's again something really really nice because this will never ever get with your DST, DVT, DRDO, most of these other funding agencies. And that's where CVPF makes a huge difference. So travel, of course, is also important. Initially, I did not have any plans of traveling, at least, but now at the stage we are at, we have to go back and forth in between certain institutes very often. So, so this type of operational flexibility makes a difference between success and failure. So overall, so right now we are still at, I think this is what, July. So we are about 8 or 9 months into it, and we are making good progress. We are yet to come for the review, but I'm pretty sure Ponari will let me know in some time, and will be happy to let the committee know how we are progressing with things. So that's where we are at, and I don't have anything to add, but would love to take any questions from the audience here. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambarish, for taking the time out and for sharing your experience. So now the floor is open for questions. You can either put them in the chat box or you can raise your hand and unmute yourself and ask the question. Maybe we can start with some of the questions in the chat box. So most of these I think were already answered in my talk, but yeah, are clinicians eligible to apply? Yes. So the minimum criteria is MD/MS, so as long or equivalent. So yes, clinicians are eligible to apply. How many projects will be awarded? That also I think I already answered. It varies from year to year depending upon the cohort and what the committee likes. But like I said, there is limited funding. So far we've awarded anywhere between 1 to 3 per year. Second question, can we have industrial collaborators? Yes, like I said, industrial collaborators can be co-PIs, yes. Then can a person on contract job in an institute apply for the grant? So the only thing that we say is that the PI and the co-PI salary needs to be secured already, but we don't mandate that they need to be on a regular payroll at the institution. So even on contractual positions, you can apply, but with the I'm struggling for the for the word, but with the caveat that that your contract needs to be for the I mean, you need to somehow get assurance from your host institution in writing that you will have your position at the institute for the duration of the grant, which is a minimal. I mean, because otherwise, how will you expect to complete the project? You understand that, right? Even if it is an yearly contract, we need it in writing from the institution saying that the host institution expects you to be in the institution for the duration of the grant until the end of the grant. So we have one hand up. Sumit, please go ahead and ask your question.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So thanks for this wonderful information. Uh, my question is directed to both the foundation as well as to Amrish. So the two important points that were raised were one, obviously, because most of it would be the translational thing. So generation of IP is one important component. So just would just know like a bit of more clarification how it was sorted out or what is the process in that terms. And secondly, as also the Amrish mentioned that with respect to the personal hiring, what is the sort of flexibility? Because sometimes obviously you'll find that, okay, the right sort of person might not be available or you need to match to the skills of the person, the pay and all that stuff.
Okay, I can take both of the questions, and if Ambarish has anything to add, he can add. So IP CPVF is very clear that whatever is the IP policy at the institution, we are happy for the projects that are awarded through CPVF to, it will not be any different. So the CPVF does not claim any IP on the research that you're doing. So whatever is a policy that is followed at the institution in terms of IP share and all of that between the collaborators, between the PI and the institution, the same thing will be applicable for these projects also. What Ambarish is referring to, I think, is so there is in our terms and conditions document, once it is awarded, there is actually a royalty clause, which basically what it says is that once in how many ever years, once the solution is commercialized, and if there are any profits on the commercialization, then there is a small percentage of those um, uh, profits. That percentage of the profit goes back to Sree PVF, and this is only when it is commercialized and if there is any profit. And also it is only up to a certain extent, certain limit. There is a limit, there is a cap. Basically what we are trying to do, because like I said, the foundation so far is running on the money that the founders have put into it, but they also have this vision to make the foundation sustainable, so it could support more projects and it can, run for many years to come. And um, uh, with the amount of money that the founders have put in, obviously that is not going to be possible. Therefore, this is just a mechanism for the people that are supported through the foundation to give something back to the foundation to help more people and more research and science and technology in the country. And in fact, all our terms and conditions are actually openly stated on the website. There is a PDF that you can find on the website, and you can go through that very clearly even before you apply to the grant. So it is all very transparent. In terms of manpower, like Ambarish is very detailedly explained through his own experience, there is definitely a lot of flexibility. We obviously expect you to provide us with a budget of how you propose to carry out the research over the next 3 years, including research personnel. But at the same time, everything that falls under recurring, they are interchangeable. So during the course of the project, if you find that you are not using as much of, you have some leftover money in consumables, but you need more money to pay for your research personnel, you can make those adjustments. And again, in terms of qualifications for the research personnel, in terms of changing the category of people that you want to hire, all of that is possible. Only thing we ask is that the PI keep the foundation informed, so we understand that, how you are making those adjustments and whether we think those adjustments are feasible. So that is all that we ask for.
I have one more question, if I may.
Sure.
Yeah. So regarding the process, you mentioned that initially there is a preliminary application, and then there is a partial screening about the eligibility and remit. So do I understand correctly that this preliminary application will be in sort of an overview of the project along with some personal details of the PI, co-PI, and others?
Yes. So there is the format available on the website. You can again go through the format. So prelim application, like you rightly pointed out, basically gives us an indication as to, a little bit about you and the team and their expertise and what the proposed solution is, and how, the gap that you're trying to that you're trying to answer through your solution, and the commercial potential of the solution. So there are some very directed questions we ask in the prelim form, and that gives us an idea. And then, of course, in the full application, we will ask you for more details. There is also word limit for each of these, so it's a small application.
It doesn't. It just need not be a very detailed proposal to start
No,
with.
no. There are like I think each question we ask for about 250 words to 300 words, I think. Everything is specified in the application form. I think I would highly recommend that you go through the form, and then you can always write to us if you have any questions.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Sure.
Can I add a small comment, Nari, to what
Yes,
you just said?
please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, so with respect to this human resource hiring, the main battle, Sumit, is at your own institute level, at least that's what you have to be aware of. CGPF allows, as long as goes by the institute rules. So if you have a certain human resource with salaries that are not standard DST-DBT, your institute needs to allow, and then CGPF would allow it. So that's something, it's not, and for IISc, there are certain positions like technology managers, facility technologists, and things like that, which are different from standard DST-DBT DRDO norms. So you just need to be aware of that aspect, and that's a battle that every institute, faculty or member would have to fight on their own.
Agreed completely. Right.
Okay. Any other questions? So there's some in the chat box. What is the age limit for co-investigator? There is no age limit as such for co-investigators. As long as the expertise of the team matches with what you're proposing, it should be fine. Yes, Suman, please go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Panari and Professor Ambrish for scheduling this session. My question is related to international collaboration, whether it's a university or an industrial collaborations. does the MOU has to be in place while applying, or post award has to be kept in place? Whether it's allowed, at what stage the MOU went?
Yeah, no, MOU is not mandatory at the application stage. We simply ask that all the collaborators that you have put in the application sort of show their willingness to participate in the project simply by signing on the form. But the MOU is only that the MOU will have to be put in place at the time of the once the grant is sanctioned and before the money is sent in, because obviously if there is money component for the collaborators, then the money will go to lead institution will then have to disperse the money to the other institutions, and therefore all of that has to be already in place by the time the first installment comes to you. So after the award, once the award is approved and before the first installment is released, is when all of these documentation and award process will take place, where Sree PVF will enter into, I mean, obviously the institution will have to sign on to the award conditions for Sree PVF. And then one of the requirements is also that the institution also has all of these MOUs. Institution will enter into all of these MOUs with all of the collaborators, whether domestic or international collaborators, specifying how the money will be dispersed, specifying how the collaboration will be managed and executed. I hope that
Okay,
answers the
thank
question.
you. Yeah, I have one follow-up question, if the
Sure.
time allows.
Yes.
So what's the, for the large consortia projects, is there any limit of collaborators that has to be there in the project?
There
Like
is
how many PIs and co-PIs should be allowed?
No, there is no limit on the number of PIs and co-PIs. We basically, what the committee will look for is whether all of these people are adding value to what you're proposing and what expertise they're all bringing, and how they all sort of, how the team comes together to, make a success of the project. There is no limit as such.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, while we wait for another hand to go up, is it mandatory to have clinical collaborators? Yes, from this year onwards, it is mandatory to have clinical collaborators, because there is no way that you will be able to translate a biomedical solution without inputs from clinicians. And therefore, the foundation has decided that they will make this mandatory from this year onwards. There's a question from Lakshmi. Do the grants support continuation of our own published research work? If the work demands extension of time period beyond 3 years, is it welcomed? The first question, I am not sure exactly what you mean, Lakshmi, but if you're saying that, should it be should you only apply with unpublished work? No, that is not, that's not a requirement for the grant at all. Even if it is, we obviously, because we are looking for late stage, things that can easily be translated, obviously proof of concept is very, very important, and whether that is published or unpublished makes no difference to the foundation. If the work demands extension of time period, so this will be, all of these decisions will be taken on a case-to-case basis, depending upon the progress, depending upon, how the project is progressing and what is left to be done, and what kind of funds are remaining. So like any other funding body, this will be on a case-to-case basis. But there are, so far, there have definitely been cases where projects have extended beyond the 3-year period. We have 1 more minute, so if anybody has any burning questions, now is your time to ask.
While others are waiting, maybe Ponnari, this question about whether things to be published. I think normally you always work with a volume of work. So I think it's important to showcase that you have the experience to do this. Otherwise, it will never work. So I think that's probably is very important to highlight, and that will also strengthen your proposal in a way.
Very true, very true. Thank you for bringing that out, Ambarish. Yes. Yeah, so when we're looking at feasibility of the project, obviously the expertise of the PI is important, and that publications, like Ambarish said, is one way to show that you do have experience in the field and that you will be able to successfully complete the project. So, yes. Okay, so that's 12:30 exactly. So if there are no more questions, then I think we will end this here. I would like to once again thank Ambarish for sparing the time and adding all of those very valuable insights for the prospective applicants. And thank you, Neelima, for the support also. And thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to applications from all of you, and I hope this has been helpful. And if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to write to sreepvfgrants@gmail.com. And and please go through our website also. Most of the information is given in detail on the website. Thank you all.
Thank you, and best of luck to all the participants.